I have the privilege of opening up the discussion for us tonight to talk about where are we going in primary care today. And so I also have the honor to introduce and really hold the space for the functional medicine movement. So as an appointed faculty and also now a director of medical education at the Institute for Functional Medicine, it's a real pleasure and joy to get to watch the movement happening on a global platform. It's truly exciting to see practitioners of all types embrace, again, the science, but also the art of doing effective and really good medicine. So this trickles down to our discussion and our coordination back to primary care. So I can tell you, I have the honor of sitting through all of our boot camp courses, the Applying Functional Medicine and Clinical Practice course, where practitioners come in and they get ready to dive into a 40-hour program that week, and things just start to break down. It's interesting. The thoughts that they knew about medicine start to challenge them, and you can sort of watch these waves of emotion that grip and grab practitioners as they go through this entire week where they're being asked to stop and just think about, what are they doing in medicine today? And what are they treating? And where are they going next? And functional medicine asks every single provider to do just that. So we leverage and base our approach in functional medicine off of a roadmap. And that roadmap is an interesting roadmap because it's really that of following the aspects or the principles of being a grounded, solidified, healthy individual planted firmly in the ground below you and bearing fruit and holding a space of solidity in this world. So in functional medicine, we use the image of the tree. The tree represents the healthy individual that's anchored firmly into lifestyle attributes. And there's some valuable tools that we use when teaching practitioners and physicians, as well as some very powerful and impactful tools to help our patients understand why we're utilizing those. Now, I'm going to shine the light on tonight as well what we call the heuristic or the governing operating system that drives all functional medicine providers. And it's this simple summary that's called go to it. So can I ask you to say that with me? Are you ready? We're going to go to it. No, that was not very good. Can we try that one more time? All right, ready? Go to it. In functional medicine, practitioners, regardless of their background, whether you're visiting with a naturopath or you're talking with a medical doctor, you're working with a nurse practitioner, or it's an acupuncture that's been trained in functional medicine, the functional medicine movement helps to create this language, this flow, or this organization, so that all providers who sit down at the table together are thinking through the same flow, the same organization process to move forward. So I'm just going to shine the light on two key tools tonight that are a part of our gathering and our organizing. So we're going to gather this medical information in a very unique way that's very specific to the functional medicine principles. And then we take all this information we've pulled in and then we organize it. And we put it together in this very unique model that's called the Functional Medicine Matrix Model. And that particular approach to medicine is what defines functional medicine and makes it very unique as a learning methodology. So just to pause for a moment and think about where we're going. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And in functional medicine, we're here to shake it up a little bit. We're here to ask our patients to stop and step back and think about how did they get to this particular point. It doesn't just happen overnight for most individuals. And in functional medicine, where we serve our communities best is in supporting them in managing and preventing chronic disease. So let's look at some of the aspects or the attributes from lifestyle medicine. Now, in gathering data, and I can say now on an international or global platform, we finally have new innovations in technology that can help us gather this important and very unique information about our patients through the concepts of functional medicine. So, for example, one of the resources that we have launched into in the last couple years is a digitized data gathering system that has this large, robust patient intake on the front end that pulls all this information together and then populates that data into these two tools I've been mentioning to you. One of them is called the timeline. The other is the functional medicine matrix. And these two tools will come to light in this digital platform. And so saving practitioners time and the ability to gather information is part of where we're going in this new era. We need to be able to show proof of concept in functional medicine because doctors are seeing this in their offices every single day. We see group practices who are implementing unique group modalities and moving patients through different types of programs and getting remarkable results, reducing costs in chronic disease management. We need to capture this data. As a whole, the community in functional medicine needs to gather this data together to be able to show and demonstrate where more of the choice points are and where's the leverage in functional medicine. And you'll find for most providers it resides in lifestyle factors, going back to diet, nutrition changes, working through sleep and restfulness, taking the opportunity to look at movement and exercise, focusing on relationships. So very important attributes. We want to gather this data, pull this together to move this aspect of primary care forward. So we now have these unique tools and resources where we can start to do this. We can communicate information to our patients, and information can end up in their emails, and in the future, their food plans will end up in their phones on their hands. And functional medicine will be working its way from the research all the way down to the patient's handheld devices, helping them implement. So we're really pushing the envelope in functional medicine with our innovative resources. We want to support the practitioners. We want to understand who this patient base is that's seeking the functional medicine doctor, so together in partnership, we can continue to move this forward in a cost-effective manner. So what has been discovered in digging deep into the data points of, who are these functional medicine practitioners? I just want to share just a small amount of data with you. In a large group study that was done last year with over 6,000 patient contact visits, it was stunning to find out that the average functional medicine patient was 44 years old. The average. And when looking at some of our interesting differentiation points with diagnoses, you can see that the average diagnosis was 6 or more at the age of 44. Stunning numbers. And looking at the prescriptive components, we wonder where the costs are coming in. Part of the costs are that we're not looking deep enough to find the sources or the causes of these problems. To be able to look at this array of these multiple diagnoses and say, what is under the surface that's truly impacting these conditions? What are our common denominators? That's one of the most remarkable things that functional medicine does, is it says, what are the common denominators? And what's so powerful about having functional medicine doctors with different backgrounds and disciplines work together is they're using the same language when they have these discussion points. They're using the same common theme while they're looking to find the common denominators. So interesting, when you walk in to see most functional medicine or integrative providers, most patients seeking this form of medicine are already connected to the fact that they realize through their own self-discovery and reading that the gut or the GI tract is so deeply connected to the rest of the system. Right? So many of our functional medicine patients present mindfully knowing that maybe their joint pain or their skin condition traces back to and is connected to some imbalance that they're experiencing in the gut. Right? So it is of no surprise when we step back and we say, well, let's look at the database and compare male and female patients. What are the number one complaints that people are presenting with? GI distress. Right? And when we look at some of these important associations in functional medicine, when we're struggling with the integrity and the quality of the function in the GI tract, now we're looking at nutrition compromisation. Now we're worried about issues with digestion and absorption and adequate nutrient levels. Does our patient even have the right balance of their macronutrients? Are they getting enough good quality proteins, fats, and carbohydrates? Is there enough fruits and vegetables in an array that the colorful ingestion of those phytonutrients is having an impact on the way their health is moving forward? These are all important questions that we'd stop and think about if we see GI distress with a patient. Like, what are some of the underlying impacts and causes? So in our population today seeking functional medicine, these individuals are reporting challenges with aches and pains, cognitive concerns, issues with focus and concentration. They're often stiff and they're sore. Or these symptoms have been coming on for quite some time and they can't really pinpoint how it began. It's just been chronic and slow and insidious. These are some of the areas where functional medicine shines, where we may not have the most clear-cut diagnosis, but we do know how to dig deeper and get to the underlying patterns, and that's the movement in functional medicine. It's to say, what are the causes, or the causes of the causes, and how can we get down to that level to really transform someone's health? Now, one of the other very interesting and important aspects of functional medicine is the engagement of the practitioner and their state of mind. So we refer to this as the art of doing good medicine in functional medicine. And you'll see this huge movement is taking place actually across the platform of medicine. You'll hear special authors and speakers. For example, Dr. Elizabeth Frates, who is running the Institute for Lifestyle Medicine out of Harvard, running all the extension courses, What you're hearing out of Harvard's lifestyle medicine courses is the discussion of the coach approach, the critical role that the physician moves out of the space of being a dictator, telling the patient what to do, but rather engaging them in a therapeutic encounter and ensuring that a coach approach in the conversation is happening. And when the physician takes a coach approach and moves that locus of control back in the space of the patient, transformations happen. Movement starts to shift. So functional medicine takes the time to put the practitioner in the right space, heart, mind, and soul, to be prepared, to be ready, to walk into that door and meet that patient in that space of receptivity, being able to hear and listen, continue to go further. So gathering plays a critical role, gathering of the practitioner to ensure gathering of the information or the insight from within that consult or that conversation. So functional medicine stemming from the art and the science. And a real area we've been on for the last year in a lot of our training courses, and I've actually been working on with patients quite a bit, is this whole concept of ikigai. Have you heard of ikigai? Ikigai is the Japanese term that stands for that which drives you out of bed in the morning, that which gets you excited, that for which you live for. So if you were going to think about your ikigai, are there things that just sort of jump right out at you, the most important things that you think about the minute you open your eyes in the morning? Right, what we see in the functional medicine movement is we see functional medicine providers tuning into the functional medicine applications and getting back to the heart and soul of why they engaged in functional medicine in the first place. Going back to medicine and the promises that they had made to themselves. If you haven't spent any time looking at ikigai, it's a very interesting intersection. And it has to do this crossover space between that which you love and that which you are good at, and your capability to reach out into the world to deliver those resources and provide things that are needed. It's a beautiful interplay of you and your inner world and your outer world finding your purpose and potential. And I can tell you, I've been having more conversations with patients about this than ever. And I'm finding the patients that get moved and shift clinically are my patients who deal with anxiety and depression and mood disorders, taking the time to dig deeper and talk about purpose. So in functional medicine, resources and tools that bind us all together in this primary care movement is the timeline and the integration of this amazing tool in helping our practitioners think their way through the uniqueness of this patient in front of them. It's this tool that's used in gathering someone's storyline, the whole history of how the patient presented at this point. This is one of the anchoring tools used in primary care and functional medicine today, so that whenever there's an associated link, maybe a nutrition professional or a health coach, or maybe another referral to another functional medicine doctor, the utilization of going back to leverage this tool and this resource to understand the patient's journey is a part of our common denominator. It's part of our language that helps us understand where did the patient begin and how have they moved to this particular point today. Now, in the functional medicine architecture, you'll also hear that one of the binding principles that drives this intake and the uniqueness of us uncovering the patient's journey and story comes back to and tracks back to these considerations called antecedents, triggers, and mediators. And we plot these back onto the patient's timeline. Now, one of the unique things about functional medicine is we also stop and look for these huge areas, these points of demarcation in the patient's storyline that tell us something huge happened. Not that we're going to be dealing with the diagnoses that come downstream, but we're going to step back and say, what happened here on this unique patient's journey that we want to focus on? So I want to show you the timeline of a patient I recently just saw back in my office. It had been almost 9 years since I had seen her in person. She came back to see me this last year, 54-year-old female. She was down to 225 pounds. She had lost 30 pounds since the last visit we had together, but was describing all sorts of fatigue concerns, aches and pains. She was dealing with disruptions in her sleep pattern and challenges with blood sugar regulation. And if you look at this list, she actually came in feeling better than when I had seen her years before. Right? And looking at the severity of this list, there was red flags all over. And instead of focusing on these areas, she actually ended up spending the majority of this first visit talking to me about her stress. And when I lit up her timeline, this is the digitized living matrix version of her timeline, you could see this huge cascade, this point in her life when everything began and things started to summate. This is an example of one of these unifying tools. This is the timeline. with a very exaggerated version of what happens when we dig deeper and deeper and go into these spaces to say, well, what happened in this cascade of events? So this is a very important concept and tool that's used in functional medicine, it's used with patients, and it's used in self-care. It's used in self-care training courses for nurses, for coaches, for healthcare providers and residents, to step back and think about your own timeline, to think about your own patterning. Looks like my slides have that I don't recognize. What should I do? My timer stops when that happens, right? So in the model of the functional medicine matrix, what you will notice is that there's really three main areas. One is the delicacy and the art in which we engage in a conversation with patients. It's called the therapeutic encounter. Second is the base of the matrix, which is referred to as the modifiable lifestyle factors. This is one of the very unique things of lifestyle medicine and functional medicine both. They dive deep. These types of providers dive deep down into the lifestyle and really start there to see what is going to change, what will be transformed for these individuals if they happen to get the right amount of sleep, when they happen to create the right healthy relationships, or figure out how to handle and manage the unhealthy relationships. Just thinking here, do you have any relationships in your life that feel kind of toxic? Is there anybody you know that makes you feel kind of sick when you're around them? Right? So, I mean, sometimes the conversations we're having with patients at this level of lifestyle have to do with relationship and community and healing, helpful relatedness. The healthcare provider is a part of that care team. So in the functional medicine model, you've got the therapeutic encounter, you've got the modifiable lifestyle factors, and then the third area of great interest to physicians and primary care has to do with the clinical imbalances that stem back to what's referred to as systems biology. And this is what's new and unique that's been emerging over the last couple decades in medicine. And it's not just looking at the disease individually. It's not just looking at an independent individual organ, but rather stepping back and being able to look at the way multiple organs work together in a system, in a biological base. So it's referred to as systems biology. And so the unique aspects or those attributes of being able to identify and continue to move forward with a unique patient have to do with us saying, okay, for this patient, what is their base? How well have they taken care of themselves? We move ourselves back up into the trunk of that individual, and that's where systems biology and our genetic predispositions reside. So in functional medicine, what is so unique and cutting edge that's impactful and effective that's bringing the life force back into physicians? It's them getting to step back and say, what are the causes of disease? And learning how to find them and understand the pathophysiology and to be able to connect the dots to recognize patterns that weren't viewed through the previous lens. So in functional medicine, it's stepping back and saying we're not just going to deal with that one limb that is dead with all those leaves that need to be pruned, but it's stepping back and saying, what can we do to tend the patient? What do we need to do to shift the soil? So as I highlighted for you, some of the key areas that we focus on are sleep, rest, relaxation. We target some of the areas of movement, therapeutic exercise. These modifiable lifestyle factors include healthy foods, the appropriate, right, live foods. And then in looking at stress and our resilience, our ability to cope with and handle and manage the stressors today. These are very important conversations. And interestingly, when we teach physician groups and patient groups, we often find that some of the biggest stressors are being experienced by healthcare providers and physicians when looking across all of the various different demographics. So occupationally, physicians, becoming a physician is a very high-risk choice. Right? And then last, when we look at relationships, we look at the importance, the power of those healing, healthy relationships, which sometimes actually stem from and happen inside of the practice. Some practitioners are opting or choosing to run these particular types of programs. So when we look at the youth, the support that comes from joining together teams, this can happen in a practice. This is part of the movement. This is part of the success, is bringing community and bringing that sense of tribe into the practice. This is a part of where healthcare is going. It's in group medicine, patient education, helpful healing connections. I'm sure many of you have seen, just in the course of this last year, the discussions going on around the concerns with loneliness or the associations with addiction to feeling isolated. These are important aspects for the healthcare provider to step forward with. So in my closing comments, I would say that where the needle is going, or as Jeff Bland would say, skating to where the puck is going down the ice. You've got all these ways of thinking about where is medicine moving. Where is this value coming from? This value is coming from physicians doing the best job with their clinical decision making and being empowered with the understanding of treating the cause or the cause of the cause. Where is this movement going and why is it so powerful? Because there's common denominators, points of language that are used to help providers on a team understand each other. And it's also taking the time to not only look at the unique aspects of that particular patient, finding that common theme, and then engaging the right mix of providers. It's taking the time to put the patient in the center of care and drawing in all of the right appropriate team members to be able to support and usher that patient on their learning journey. So in functional medicine, our future and our movement and where the value is bringing together the collaborative care team model, empowering the patient to make the right choices, getting information and knowledge into the tips of their hands, empowering that patient to be able to move forward and treat the cause of their causes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kristi.